What's up, everyone? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick, and I have a collection update for you. Kind of waited a little while before doing another one of these, just so I had some serious material to go over, and I think I may have waited too long because there's a lot on here. But we're going to get through it, and I'm pretty sure you guys are going to find some stuff you like. Alright, we're going to start off with a double dose of Bewitcher. We have their self-titled debut, and we have their new album, Under the Witching Cross. Both of these albums are absolute bangers. I absolutely love this. It's definitely very similar to like Midnight, except a little bit more thrashy. Tons of riffs, tons of great melodies, but you still got that kind of blackened thrash feel on the underside of it. It's just absolutely awesome. I loved pretty much every track on both of these. It's just a lot of fucking fun to listen to. Strongly recommend these, either or, honestly. I think the production's a little bit better on this one, but you're not missing out on anything if you get this one too. Just get them both. They're both incredible. Check them out. Fulci, Opening the Hellgate. Now this, I thought I was getting the original version, turns out it was a vinyl rip. I should have known the price was too good to be true because these are kind of hard to find, especially their second album, which I hear is really good. This is Fulci themed brutal death slash kind of slam, I guess. I'm not the biggest slam fan, but I really enjoyed this. It's actually very layered. It's super riff oriented, and I gotta say the songs are pretty catchy. Some of the lower burp vocals kind of got on my nerves after a while when they're just kind of labored too long. But for the most part, this is just killer stuff. I want to find the actual print of this and their second album too, which I hear is also amazing. Really dug this. It's just fucking fun to listen to. Plus, I love Fulci movies. The Beyond and the one that this is based off of, City of the Living Dead or Gates of Hell, is incredible. So yeah, definitely check it out. Another double dose. Wind of the Black Mountains. This is pretty much a one-man black metal band from Michigan, actually. This one right here, Summon in Shadows, is a compilation of unreleased material from splits and such. Very raw, very kind of all over the place. Like, it's really kind of hard to listen to in some spots. You can definitely tell the drums are very programmed on this. I really didn't care for the production. I mean, if you're going for like creepy atmosphere and whatnot, it's alright. Now this one, Sing Thou Unholy Servants, is more of a straightforward album. This was re-released this year on Moorbound Records. Both of these are on Moorbound. And this originally came out in 1998, and it's very uneven. Sometimes it's more gothic, sometimes there's songs in here that have a fierce industrial feel. There's one in here that really reminded me a lot of Ministry more than it did of anything black metal. Some very long songs that kind of labor atmosphere over an actual melody or anything like that. This really wasn't my thing, but I mean, I'm not going to go ahead and say this might not be your thing. Who knows, you might dig it. I just didn't. But still, check it out. It's an interesting release, and it's kind of cool to hear something from just up north. So, yeah. Bat. Axestasy EP. This is a side project from Ryan Waste and Nick Poulos. Both of them are in Municipal Waste, obviously. It's interesting to note that Ryan Waste is on bass on this one, and Nick Poulos is the only guitarist on here. And this is more like Motorhead worship, like early heavy metal, but still with that kind of snarling, almost thrashy undertone to it. Maybe like a little bit of Venom worship on here. Love the production. I love the punk influence that's on here. This is just a really fun listen. I have their full length, and I thought that was pretty good too. So yeah, this is another solid offering from these guys. If you've never heard of them, definitely check them out. And yeah, it's Municipal Waste essentially, but just more heavy metal. Check it out. It's good stuff. Blasphemous, Putrefaction, Abominable, Premonition. It's a mouthful. This is a re-release of their first demo from 2017 on Dunkelheit Productions. This is very raw, like old school death metal, maybe a little bit of death doom to it. Very cavernous, very gritty. Songwriting wise, it's not super interesting. I definitely want to check out some of their more recent stuff, and it's really kind of hard to judge a band by a demo that was released years ago. So I imagine this band has probably progressed since. I love the artwork on here. It's pretty sick, and it's pretty nasty on the back too. But again, I definitely want to check out their newer stuff. This is just kind of a sample offering. There's some decent songs in here, but a lot of this really wasn't my thing. But I still think I'd like to check out more of their stuff because I like the overall feel, and I'm kind of curious what they would bring to an actual full length that was, you know, mixed and mastered well. Still, interesting stuff. Definitely check it out. Master, Widower EP. Now, this is just a 4-song EP from Master out on Metal Bastard Enterprises, and I'm going to talk about that label here a little bit more in a little bit, but this really isn't much of an offering from them. The 2 new songs, Widower and Dissociation, are just kind of there. They're really not super interesting or engaging, and I really like Master. I like their earlier stuff. Their first 2 albums are killer, and they've had some really good recent releases too. This isn't one of them. The 2 live tracks in here sound like they were recorded on someone's phone. They just took the audio from it, so not necessarily the best representation of them live. And the production for the 2 original songs in here is very muted and very thin, and it just really doesn't do the band justice. Still, I recommend checking out Master. They're a lot of fun anyway. Just maybe not this one. Either way, who knows? You might like it. Affasia, Adrift in Remorse. This is one of the ones I got out of the Metalhead box. This is out on Transcending Records. And this is like a gothic doom metal band. They're from Richmond, Virginia, which I honestly thought they were more of a European band, just judging by the sound. It's very close to, like, I'd say My Dying Bride or something like that, except there's not really a lot of harsh vocals on here. Very melodic, though. I don't think the vocals deliver very good hooks. I don't think the guy's a bad singer. It's just, like, the cadences sometimes and how the choruses are put together, they really don't deliver much of a hook, at least in my opinion. But still, this is a pretty decent listen, and if you like more gothic style, you know, doom metal, you might dig it. Check it out. Celestial Season, Solar Lovers. Now, this is the other one I got in the Metalhead box, also on Transcending Records. Now, this is a re-release on Transcending. This album originally came out in 1995, and I actually have the one that preceded it, and that album's name escapes me right now. But this is a really interesting doom metal project, I guess you'd call it. Like, it's very eclectic. There's cellos and violins in it. There's parts on here that go more full-bore, like, stoner rock, like, more like kind of early Black Sabbath, and not as raw. There's also some parts in there that are kind of death doomy. It's a really interesting listen, and this is really something I usually listen to. Like, I like my doom metal a little bit more raw or just flat-out death doom, but I really liked a lot of the songwriting in here, and this has some really cool moments on it. Definitely recommend checking it out if you're looking for something kind of different than doom. It's a really solid listen. Check it out. Alright, the next 3 are by the same band. I'm not going to put them all up at once because that's a lot of graphics on there, and that's just too much work. So we're just going to go one by one, and that band is Obscure Infinity. This is a reissue on FDA Records of their first album, and this is just very raw, heavy, almost kind of death doomy death metal. It's just nasty sounding. Some of it really remind me of early Bullet Thrower with some black metal touches here and there, and it just has that giant cavernous sound. The bass is kind of up in the mix too, so it kind of adds an extra bit of heft to it. Pretty solid release. And I gotta say, I was surprised when I actually listened to the next one I got, because each one of these albums is very different. This one is definitely one of the most raw sounding ones of the bunch. And if you like your death metal heavy, raw, just huge and ugly sounding, definitely check this one out. Now this one, Perpetual Descending into Nothingness, is almost more melodic death metal, and it also still has touches of black metal in it. This one actually delivers some melodic hooks on it. Some of the songs are a bit longer and a little bit more put together. Like, they're not just going for heavy, they're going for, like, catchy melodies here and there. There's even some clean vocals that are kind of chanted on this. I thought this one was very interesting, like a really good listen, and I like the fact that it was kind of a departure from their earlier stuff. Like, they actually tried something new and were successful at it. Really good listen. Definitely recommend this one. And this is their most recent one, Into the Vortex of Obscurity. This came out last year on FDA Records. All these came out on FDA Records. And this is almost kind of a blend of those two. It's definitely more raw, more heavy. The vocals go back to a lower register, which on the previous one, they were a little bit more of a mid-range growl. And it really just kind of blends the two. Like, the heavy, giant songs just sound as nasty as they do in that first album. But there's also those cool touches of melody on there, and the clean vocals show up again in almost a kind of dramatic spoken word sense on one of the tracks. And there's even like a continuation track of another track that was on the previous album. So it's kind of cool how they kind of tied it all together. Really interesting that these guys put out 3 distinctly different albums, and I really enjoyed it. There's still one more I'm going to get by them. I believe it should be on its way from Discogs here soon, so look forward to me bringing this band up again. Definitely check them out. Check all 3 of those albums out. Good stuff. 7 Planets, Explore. This is an all-instrumental stoner rock / stoner metal / space metal project. This is just really chill, kind of just groovy music with tons of atmosphere, some really cool synths in it, lots of just big meaty riffs, and those kind of Clutch-like lead melodies that are just all over Clutch's releases. This is very similar to Clutch, except, less bluesy and more just rockin'. This actually has like quite a bit of a desert rock feel to it. These guys are from West Virginia, and I think they've been around for a minute. This is the first time I've ever heard of them, but generally when I see something on Small Stone, I usually pick it up because I like a lot of what they offer. It's just really good stoner metal for the most part. Check it out. It's a good time, especially if you love like Clutch and Caius and all that cool shit. Good stuff. Kvelertak Splid. It's a fun word to say. This is uncategorizable as they've always been. Kvelertak just does what they do. It's classic rock, it's black metal, thrash metal, it's sometimes progressive. There's a song on here, and I can't remember which one because they're kind of a blur of Norwegian titles for the most part, that reminded me of both Cheap Trick and Mayhem in the same song. And that is a sentence I never thought I'd actually utter, but these guys do that. So many catchy riffs on here, so many hooks, huge anthemic choruses. There's even one that has a chorus that reminds me of like all the harmonizing you hear in a Queen album. This is just a wild listen, and I can't stop listening to it. It's just nuts. This is out on Rise Records. If you're looking for something truly different and you've never listened to Kvelertak before, definitely check this out. It's wild. Unfathomable Ruination, Enraged and Unbound. This is a band that somehow slipped under my radar last year. It's a brutal death metal band that features former members of Flesh Rot, and this is just awesome. This is just really raw, nasty, heavy brutal death metal, but there's like touches of melody throughout this. I was really surprised. There are some really cool hooks, and it's kind of technical brutal death too. Like there's a lot of really cool guitar playing here that's really awesome, some cool polyrhythms, and you get some cool guest stars. The frontman of Benighted, whose name escapes me, and Sven from Aborted also show up in here. Just super fucking heavy. Like this is just nasty sounding. Really enjoyed this, and when I saw the cover, it kind of reminded me of Cannibal Corpse's The Bleeding, which I love Cannibal Corpse, so that's generally enough. I'll still buy an album based on the album cover occasionally. But yeah, this is out on Willow Tip. If you're looking for something brutal as fuck, definitely check this out. It's good shit. Skeletal Spectre, Succubus of the Night. Okay, when I said I was going to bring up Metal Bastard Enterprises, again, this is the one, because this came out on it. Now, I tried to look up information on this band, and apparently they were more of a death doom band that broke up in 2017, yet this came out in 2019. And I can't find an actual lineup for this, at least on Encyclopedia Mellum, which they're pretty reliable about that. And when I listened to it, expecting one thing, I got something completely different. This is more like stripped down blackened death metal, like kind of if Jungle Rot went blackened death metal. Sounds nothing like what the band used to sound like, even very different in the sense the vocalist on the original albums was female, and this one, it's definitely a guy. And then this also made me think of the whole Defecation thing, where this label released an album by Defecation that wasn't by Defecation. In fact, Mitch Harris had nothing to do with it, and even went public on this on various forums and his Twitter, said, I have nothing to do with this release. They essentially stole the name, and they even kind of trolled him in the comments promoting this release. This kind of makes me think this might not actually be this band, but rather a different band. They just use the name of a band that's been defunct or broken up for a while. So musically, it's okay. Again, this also suffers from a very muted production as well, but I'm not entirely sure this is that band on here. This is maybe someone else that's trying to piggyback on the name just because no one's using it for a while. I don't know that for sure, and I'm not saying any of this with any sort of certainty, but just because of the whole Defecation thing, I am definitely suspicious. Either way, check it out, and if you know this band and listened to them before, listen to this one and then listen to their older stuff, and, well, see if you draw the same conclusions I did. Verthebral, Abysmal Decay. This is a death metal band out of Chile, and these guys play just raw, old-school death metal. Definitely reminded me a lot of early Morbid Angel, especially Altars of Badness. It's faster than hell, and this came out on Transcending Obscurity, which I rarely am able to get albums from that label because it's just hard getting stuff from that label here. I don't know why, it's just difficult. But this is really good. Their packaging is also excellent for this album. Like, this is really cool with the sort of foil look to it. But really good stuff. It's very straightforward. It's heavier than hell. And, I mean, if you're looking for that kind of, you know, early 90s death metal sound, these guys definitely have it down to a science. And for some odd reason, South American death metal bands just seem heavier than everyone else sometimes, like early Christian and shit like that. It's just ridiculously heavy. This is a really, really solid album. Definitely check it out, especially if you're just looking for some killer death metal. Kirk Windstein, A Dream in Motion. This is Kirk's solo album. And honestly, when I heard the first single, which is the opening track and title track, I thought this was going to pretty much sound like another Crowbar release, which I generally have no problem with. I love Crowbar. But I kind of was curious of whether or not he was going to sort of do something different with his own solo thing. And he did. Honestly, that song is kind of misleading because a lot of this is very soft and somber. Like, not like acoustic ballads or anything like that, more like somber dirges. There's a lot more clean tones on here than his token, just stupid, heavy guitar. Tons of cool riffs, lots of melodies, and you really get to hear him sing more. It's not as gravelly on here. You get some more clean moments there. And as an added surprise, he covered Aqualung on here, and honestly, he did a ripping job on it. It's really good. This is out on E1 Records, and I believe this year he also has a Crowbar album coming out. They're on tour with Sepultura here soon, which, looking forward to that one. But yeah, this is a good listen. This is really cool, and I'm glad that it was different than a Crowbar album. So now when that new Crowbar album comes out, it won't feel like retread. Check it out. It's good stuff. Agathocles, Humerigans. This is a reissue of their 1997 album out on Self-Made God Records. This is a grindcore band from Belgium, and there's a lot of like early Napalm Death on here in terms of style, but also kind of that early Carcass, Bill Steer gurgle over the vocals. Tonally, it's kind of all over the place. Sometimes the songs are very serious and very political, much like you'd expect from grindcore, because that's one of their things, is politics. But also just some straight up goofy ones. There's a grindcore song done in an entirely clean guitar tone, which just sounds odd. There's even a song on here that's almost kind of a swing song, or at least has a swing breakdown. It's all over the place. It's kind of a fun listen, though. The production's a little raw, but it's grindcore. You kind of expect that, but it's not the kind of raw I prefer, if that makes any sort of sense. These guys have an absolute shitload of releases. I looked them up on Encyclopedia Metalum, and I was like, oh man, I should get some more by them. Like, oh wow, there's a lot. But yeah, if you like grindcore, definitely check them out. It was a fun listen. And finally, we have Monstrous, World Under Siege. This also came out on Metal Bastard Enterprises. I'm not really suspicious about this one, because this actually has a member that was in Skeletal Spectre, and I could actually look up all the stuff on him, and this is legit his release. This is just very thrashy death metal. And it kind of suffers from the same thing the other two on Metal Bastard suffer from. Really muted, thin production on here. And the songs just seem kind of scattershot, kind of thrown on them. There's really no kind of, like, pacing on this album. It's all one pace, in fact. Like, once you get past, like, the third or fourth track, you're really not going to hear much different. It sticks with a very fast, thrashy pace. Occasionally slows down, but it only does that for a second just to speed back up again. And while I like that sort of thing, I love heavy, fast, thrashy death metal, it got old kind of quick. Still, I recommend checking it out. I recommend checking out any of these despite what I say about them. You know, form your own opinions and whatnot. This one really didn't do much for me, but, you know, there's plenty of other cool death metal bands out there to check out. Alright, so that knocks out another collection update. This was a pretty sizable one. I might not wait as long for the next one just because this takes a while to go through and these videos are long. Either way, if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because if you subscribe, you're entered in our giveaway for a Cryptopsy hoodie once we get to 1,000 subs. When we get there, we do a little randomizer thing, and one of you lucky guys or girls will get a Cryptopsy hoodie. That should sound cool. Either way, catch you guys later.